Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay. Hafade and good afternoon. I'd like to thank all of you for being here today. This informational briefing by the Committee on Housing, Utilities, and Public Safety and Homeland Security is now called to order. It is now 2:04 p.m. For the record and in accordance with 5 GCA Chapter 8, subsection 8107, notices were sent out via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets on February 9, 2018, and the second notice on February 13, 2018. With me today is our Legislative Secretary, Senator Lee. Thank you for being here. The purpose of this informational briefing is to help the committee and the general public to understand issues of concern regarding the status of the 180 megawatt power plant in Dededo, which is a proposed location, it's not solidified. Replacement of Cabras 3 and 4 power plants in PD and damage from 2015 explosion, power rate increases, concrete poles and underground power system, status of renewable energy projects. We have with us today Mr. John Beneventi, our GPA General Manager, and Chairman Joy Duenas from the CCU, and Mr. Graham Bota, who is the legal representative for the CCU. Just to clarify, we set up in this kind of forum, it is supposed to be an informational hearing, but we figured that because we have a lot of displays going on in this hall, that it would be more feasible that we sat down here and discussed it. So I believe, Mr. Beneventi, that you have a presentation that you'd like to give us, and I reviewed it, so it addresses some of the concerns, and then when you're done, we'll go ahead and open up the panel for questions. Okay? Can we get up the presentation, please?
Yes. First of all, thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to brief your office on Guam Power Authority. Senator, thank you for being here. Again, the presentation is not that long. It's only 57 pages, but I will roll through it as quickly as I could. And yes, Madam Chair, the topic is, as you mentioned, up to here, and then what I beg your indulgence, but I did add something, status of the demand-side management program, and then I added that presentation we had on the public hearing on February 9, which related more to the Ukudu site. The 180 megawatt plan is projected schedule. Again, what we're looking here is first the land purchase is about 10.7 million, and we're working to have that land rezoned sometime here in the first quarter. We also have a bid out already for the power plant, and this is the first step of a three-step process. First step is really qualifying whether the firm is financially capable and has the experience to do the job. From there, once the land is solidified, we will complete the specifications, provide them the specifications, and after several months, they'll be back in to give us their proposal on the power plant and the price for the power plant. As could be seen here, we're trying to get a contract awarded by the fourth quarter of this year, November, December, and start construction by January of next year. If we start construction January of next year, we can complete the power plant by December 31st, 2021, our targeted date. Next. The land acquisition process is about 60 acres in Okudu, adjacent to the Harmon substation. Subject to the successful rezoning of the property and subsequent PUC approval. The PUC will entertain the land purchase after it has been successfully rezoned. And this is the topic of the public hearing on February 9. We did have a couple of public meetings in Dededo and Tamuning also in January doing similar presentations. Next. Cabras 3 and 4, the explosion occurred August 31st, 2015. We hired Greenspan as our insurance adjuster, and they have been continually negotiating with insurers as we all work towards a settlement. We have received about 85 84 million in advance payment. Settlement funds earmarked to defray part of the new power plant infrastructure costs. Bond covenants require settlement funds to be reinvested in the infrastructure. Power rate increases. Our base rate has been about the same since October 2013. The decreases and increases in power rates have been due to the adjustment of the levelized energy adjustment clause, which are directly related to fuel oil expenses. And the LYAC clause is adjusted to be revenue neutral, meaning whatever it costs us for the fuel, what it costs us to generate the power is what we charge the customers. This is a graph that shows the historical residential bill for about 1,000 kilowatt-hour customer, which is about our average customer at GPA. And as I can see, this is our base rate. And since 2013, it has stayed constant, basically slight up and then went reverse, but it's been basically the same throughout this period. During the same period, as you see, we have information here from starting in 2003. Oil prices have gone up, and it really went up to the highest point in about 2013 of about $110 a barrel. And subsequent to that, in 2014, it started dropping, and we got down here to the point where the LYAC was about 8.8 cents, and we held that LYAC all of 2016. And the first increase from that came in February 2017. And again, as you can see, the LYAC has been going up, and the next two, here are the next two for this LYAC period between February 1st to July 31st. Again, see this is the total rate. And as you can see, it just follows the LYAC rate because our base rate is basically the same. Next. As you can see, the graph almost mirrors the cost of fuel oil. Our fuel oil went down as low as $40 a barrel in early 2016, but as subsequent to that, increased to close to $65 a barrel today. And so the next page is this is a breakdown of the last several LYAC periods. And as can be seen here, we did go down to 0.866, had to increase it to 10.5, held it, and then 11.7, and now we're at 14.7 up through, up through April 30, and then May 1st is going to jump to 15.4. And all of this is to recover the fuel oil costs and make it revenue neutral. And again, this is the amount, the amount increase in the total bill for all this period. So basically, what's happening now is that the increase that was effective February 1st will increase about $30 here, and another $7, so a total of about $37 for the period between February 1st and and July 31st. Next. In terms of concrete and steel point counts, the history of the GPA's pole hardening project really began in the late 80s. And so far, to date, we have hardened about almost 88% of the system are either concrete pole or steel poles. There's only about 4,000 poles left on the island that are wooden. So again, we continue to take these wooden poles out as we work on those that are getting rotten and stuff. In the meantime, we've been also in terms of an underground transmission system, and a transmission system is one that brings the bulk power from the power plant to a substation. So it's similar like your main trucks that bring all the goods from one area to a distribution center. So it's an express, and so again, here in the Okudu area, Tamuning, this area is about 60% of the island's load. This is the highest, most dense area. And as we could see, there's underground lines that go all the way down to Tumun, to Tamuning, one that goes all the way through to Monroe, all the way to the hospital. One goes up to the airport, to Machechi. And the build-up is actually, the part of the DOD is going to be putting in underground all the way from Harmon, all the way up to Anderson. And there is already one underground line, transmission line from Anderson, all the way to Dedido. So if this is all completed, this whole area will have at least underground transmission line, which means that immediately after a storm, we don't have to worry about fixing transmission lines between this period. We just go to the substation and start fixing our customers' power and restoring them quickly. In terms of underground secondary system, this is the lines that are coming to the homes. You see those lines that will dangle. Well, these are the undergrounds where they all, we've been putting, this is part of the new program, is to begin the hybrid system and put everyone's secondary system underground. That's the hardest part of the process of restoring power. When the lines are behind and they're dangling here and there, we can fix the main line, which is not insulated, very quickly. But this is the process that takes a long time. So as you can see, there are areas already that are underground. There are subdivisions like Barrigada Heights, part of Sinahanya. There are also areas in Dedido that we just went in with a hybrid. Agat system just went in this past year. 575 homes were put into secondary underground. So we have about 10,700 of our customers that already have secondary underground out of a total of 51,000. Yes,
so, Mr. Benevento, you were mentioning that 21% of the customers are now enjoying this underground secondary system.
Yep.
What's your timeline to get to the full amount of customers at 100%?
I'm thinking about the timeline now being maybe 1 or 2 decades from now. It's similar to the pole hardening. We started in the 80s, and here we are in 2018, right? Yeah, 2018, so we got 87%. So instead of just concentrating on those poles remaining, we've been now, over the past few years here, been investing now in the secondary.
Thank you.
So we take every year, we take, this year I think we're investing about $4 million into the system. So every year, a little bit at a time, will get us to that, so that 10 or 20 years from now, maybe the whole island would be very close to most of it.
And when did this effort begin?
This effort also started a few years ago, and again, part of this are homes like developments that are coming in. We're encouraging them to go underground, so then all we have to do is feed those in. But the hybrid system really, it just started a few years ago. I don't have the exact date, but that's when we started going all the way to the customer's meter. Because if we were to expect the customer to go in and make that investment, it's just not going to happen. Right. So what we do is we do a whole project, and like Agat, 500 some, I think it cost us about $3 or $4 million, and we did all of Agat. So now we go in and repair the main lines. All of those customers in Agat will come on the line.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Renewable energy. Our renewable energy projects, there's actually what we would like to say 4 phases at this point. The phase 1 Dandan is the one that's operating down there. It's about 25 megawatt. It was commissioned in October. The phase 2 is what we have before us for contract. The 60 megawatt KEPCO has been approved by the CCU, and I believe the PUC will be entertaining that next week. The Hanwha project will be entertaining in this month's CCU meeting for approval. Then it will head to the PUC. So this is 120 megawatts of new low-cost renewables, averaging somewhere around the 8 to 8.5 cents a kilowatt hour. To appreciate how much lower this is compared, the LYAC is 15.4. We're getting 8.5 cents energy. And again, so this is when oil prices start going up, renewables that are contracted long term, and And one major factor is that these contracts are only a 1% escalator. So they don't go like this. They're very low escalating over the next 20, 25 years. So it may be 8.5 cents today and be 10.5, 25 years from now. It's not like, it's going to go from double pricing or anything like that. So again, this is in the process of award. This was the one that was under protest, and the OPA work agreed with GPA. Phase 3, we have a bid out now for 40 megawatts. And again, this is for 20 megawatts on Big Navy and 20 megawatts on Finnegassen. This is the land Navy that we leased from the Navy. And what we're going to do is catch all of this energy in a battery in the daytime and release it in the more costly production period in the evening peak. And I'll show you a little bit more what this looks like. And then phase 4, we're really finishing out the integration study that will determine how much more can we put in the system, how much more can the grid accept, and determine what upgrades do we need to do in the infrastructure to integrate more and more renewables. So this study is nearing completion, April 2017. And again, as you will hear us say, this coupled with the new power plant will allow us now to add more and more renewables into the system. So again, by 2021, 26% of our energy will be coming from renewables. And then, which is the mandate, which is the RPS mandate of the legislature, that 25% of our net electricity sales be 25% by 2035. So we'll be way ahead of the curve. I'd like to also note that we have a project, 40 megawatt battery storage, that will be online in August of this year. And I'll tell you what that does for all the ratepayers in terms of improvement in reliability of power delivery. Renewables included in the LYAC, they're all these renewables goes right into the LYAC. So it's there to offset energy costs for all customers. It doesn't come to GPA's base rate or anything like that. So whatever low-cost energy we can buy goes right to offset higher cost fuel oil. Next. So here's the RPS portfolio. As you can see, we're here in 2018. So over the next 2 to 3 years, we'll be up to about this amount. But PV systems do degrade over time. So it's basically, this is the curve. So we're really at this point at 30% be meeting the 2035 goal. Next. In terms of savings, what does this 160 plus 60, 120 megawatts of renewables that we're contracting, what would that do? If you look at if you Google WTI, West Texas Intermediate Crude, that's basically one of the crude prices that is almost a correlation to our fuel pricings. So if we look here and we say that crude WTI is about $65, which is close to what it is today, the savings from these two projects is close to $14 million. So that's for annual savings of $14 million to the customers. Of course, if the cost of fuel is lower, then this is the savings. If it's much higher, if it's a $100 barrel, your saving could be $28 million. This is what we mean, that renewables is a hedge. That's the price you're going to pay. So anything, even if fuel oil goes up this way, that 25% of the energy is going to stay 8.5 cents. Next. Phase 3 renewables. Again, these are the sites. These are the acres that we're leasing, about 164. Next. This is the site in Big Navy Base. For those of you that go on the base, there's the commissary site, WTI. That's where the new 20 megawatts of renewables with battery. And again, it's going to take all that energy in the daytime, store it, and then we're going to release it at night. Next site is up in NCS Finnegassen. And this is the NCS housing area. So this is it's a weird tract of land, but this is the 20 acres. This is where 20 megawatts will be put up, 71 acres. Next. There are challenges. There's what they call a duck curve, and I'll show you that in a minute. with all renewables planned, and so therefore the power plants today cannot work with the duck curve. That's why new flexible generating plants will substantially mitigate the impacts, because flexible generation, the new power plant can be turned on and off, while our generators today, you can only back them down so much before you have to take them off. And like the Cabra steam plant, you can only back it up to about 35 megawatts from 60. And when you're at 35, then you have to start taking it off the line. To put it back on the line again takes about 6 to 8 hours. So it's not like you can turn the switch like a car. And that's why flexible generation makes a difference and works with renewables, while our system today can work with renewables. The transmission grid, again, the study is being done. We will have some, there's more to just putting renewables in the system. We have to have voltage support, short circuit duty, they call that. And a simple way of saying it is that we have to intertie the system so that if something happens there, something touches the lines, it'll be able to trip the breakers. So something like that, they're all tied in together. And again, these challenges will be addressed to strengthen the grid. So over the first 185 megawatts of renewables, we're going to be able to work it. But to put more renewables beyond that, with the new power plant and other things has to come into play. Next. So here's the daily hour. This is an hourly loading for a typical day. But I'm taking one where the peak is 270, which is going to be coming up shortly. The yellow is what the renewables are generating. The blue is the conventional power plants. As you can see here, as the renewables start coming on, generating more, the power plants start backing off. Now this is 270, but if this goes to 230, which is on like in the month of February, our peak demand is about 230, then this has to go down another 40. So as you can see, this duck curve keeps going down. So you have to keep shutting generators off. If you don't shut them off, then because they can only stay on the line carrying load. And so this is where the difference of flexible versus the current generators that we have. The 40 megawatt, just back up one. The 40 megawatt project is actually not going to increase this. It's going to generate, and then we're going to shave this peak right here. This is expensive power because this is when we turn on all the peakers, the more expensive, not as efficient units. So again, we're going to have to use batteries to eliminate a lot of these blue areas. We cannot, because this is the only time of the day that the solar PV generate. So batteries are needed, more and more batteries are needed to replace all of this if one day we're going to be at 100%. No? So that's why really as we look in the near future, conventional power plants are still needed as we migrate towards more and more renewables.
Is that your goal, Mr. Beneventi, to get to 100% eventually?
Yes, but I don't think it'll be in my lifetime though. But I hope.
I don't know. You seem like a pretty young man. I think you can.
Well,
if we work hard, maybe we'll be able to get there.
Yeah, but I know we're already working on 50%, and we're not just. And the policy is the target is not really just coming like you come to, for example, other areas like Honolulu and say you will go to 75%
by the year 2045.
Yeah, we're the ones that are saying we'll hit the 50%. And don't hold me to it, but I think we can hit that 50% in the next 10 years. No? 3 years for this thing, the power plant comes on, and I'd say maybe less than 10 years, we can be at 50%.
And it's a diverse array of renewables, or you're focusing primarily only on solar?
We're not blessed in Guam with wind energy. Hawaii and all these other places, the nation is blessed with energy. And actually, wind energy is lower cost than solar PV, and actually it's more sustainable because it generates throughout the day. Unfortunately, here in Guam, we have that windmill, the wind generator down in Windward Hills. And at times you go by there and it's not turning.
Right, right.
So it's really, that's our pilot project here. So So really, all we can see for Guam so far is solar PV, unless one day there are other types of renewables that are more sustainable. Fuel cells are in the process of being looked at, but right now, solar PV seems to be the only one, except perhaps maybe waste to energy. If one day that becomes something that can be done, that's like another 5 megawatts a day or other things. But other than that, it's really, we kind of limit it to solar PV.
Thank you.
The 40 megawatt energy battery is going to be commissioned in August. It's a 35 million bond project that we did in 2014. And this is really going to stabilize the power from the NRG. And I'll show you in a minute what kind of power comes in from NRG. In addition, and that's for the 16, and there's a 24 megawatt that is being installed in the Hagatna substation. And that's really going to help the rest of the system. If you recall, if you see, sometimes we have this short interruption of power, 5-10 minutes or so. That's when we lose a generator. The others cannot move fast enough to avoid the power outage. So therefore, we have to what they call load shed certain areas, so we stabilize the system and not go into a blackout. By not going into a blackout, we're able to put everyone back within about 5-10 minutes or so. So that's the under-frequency relay scheme. So the battery now will help us and actually eliminate close to about 80% of those type of nuisance outage. Until we get into further, the new power plant will actually almost eliminate all of that new type of nuisance. But the battery, the 40 megawatt total battery, will help us do that. Next. This is a NRG down in Dandan. This is the way it produces power. From somewhere around 6, 7 in the morning to 6 at night, it goes away religiously every day. But here it is, a cloud cover comes over, it's producing that much, it just drops very quickly. So the system, really, you're producing power from a generator, is like this, straight. This one is like this. So this is where now all this energy will go to a battery, and then the battery will smoothen it out so that we can do this. Next. When we talk about net metering customers, these are the what's on customers' roof. Similarly, this is one I just took for a PD, a unit, 24 kilowatts, not megawatts. The energy is 25,000 kilowatts. This is a 24 kilowatt in a roof. As you can see in the daytime, it's hardly consuming in the home, but it's producing energy. But look again, look at the erratic thing. So this is what we're feeling out there in power quality. So the Hagatna 24 megawatt will now stabilize this. So then our quality of our power will start to improve. And again, reduce some outages, because we do have outages also related to the NRG. I think 10 times in the past 6 to 8 months that it tripped the system, you know that. Here's the case now where this is 14. This customer generates more than they need and all of that.
Mr. Beneventi, just for the public, can you just let us know what NRG stands for?
NRG? NRG is the name of the company that actually has been in the renewable business for a long time. And actually, they've now more recently been selling out all of their assets. But it's I'm not sure what NRG stands for, but it's NRG company. It's a company. So that's the contractor that we have at the Dandan farm for the PPA, Power Purchase Agreement. Next. Demand Side Management Program. This is the program where we're providing rebates to customers to reduce their consumption. Because again, there's two ways really to help a customer. One is keeping the rates down, and two, helping them reduce their consumption without reducing their quality of life. And as you can see here, one of the biggest rebate, the biggest equipment that will do that is the air conditioning. We have the really efficient air conditioning these days. So we have spent now, we have a 1.8 million budget, and right now we've spent about 1.2. So we're working again to There's actually more projects that we're trying to get out there to help the consumers reduce their consumption. Next. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's the part for try to answer all the other questions. I can go quickly through this one we did in the legislative hearing. I'm not sure whether you've seen it but
Yes, please go ahead. I know you've been having a lot of public meetings in different areas in the community centers around the island. So, yes, please go ahead and move forward. Thank you.
And I'll work through it quicker than that. But next. And again, this was, I'm sorry, back up one, this one. This was in support, asking to support Bill 22334, which is to rezone these 3 lots from R2 to M2 to build and operate a new power generating plant, accessories and other related functions. And again, whether it's M2 or what is really what would allow us to operate and build this power plant in that particular area. The proposed site is right here. This is the Harmon substation across the Micronesian Mall. Right behind it is about 60 acres of property that we're looking at. If you look at the whole area, it's really a mixed zone. Here are commercial, and all this green is really all M1 at this point. Here is M2 in this area, and again, the others are commercial and R2. Next. There's the lot itself right behind the Harmon substation. And again, how are we bringing in the infrastructure here? There's a pipeline going all the way from Cabras to up to Tangisan Power Plant. There's an existing pipeline, so we'll be diverting the fuel line from using that right away. We'll be constructing 2 new pipelines, and bring the fuel oil this way. There's the transmission line directly into the system. And here's the wastewater treatment plant, in which we're going to take the wastewater, sewer water, about close to 3 million gallons a day, and utilize that, treat that as gray water, and use that for cooling the power plant. And what that means is that really we're not going to be pulling water from the aquifer, which makes the aquifer more sustainable for the people, for the island. Next. Again, why do we need a new power plant? Very quickly, really our plans are about the Cabras 1 and 2 is going to be heading to 46 years old by the time we get to 2021. Expensive to operate and maintain. We don't have adequate capacity for future growth, most especially as a result of losing Cabras 3 and 4 and the growth that is anticipated to come with the military buildup. The system, as I was mentioning earlier, is not compatible with solar PV. We only have one fuel burning capability of the plant, that's to burn heavy oil. It's hazy and non-compliant. US EPA permitting. US EPA potentially could fine us over $150 million if we continue to burn the RFO that we do today. Our plants today, all our baseload plants are vulnerable to tsunamis, storm surges, and I will show something on that very shortly. So again, the new baseload plan really answers all of this needs positively. We substantially increase reliability and more efficiency because again, Cabras 1 and 2 and all of that were 40-year-old technologies. We'll be using the current technology on this, compatible with solar PV. We're going to diversify to burning 2 fuel, ultra-low sulfur diesel, which is tied into oil, and natural gas, which is a separate market component. So that will allow us flexibility. And again, how does that work? With solar PV and 2 types of fuel, the utility now is able to control what it can in terms of the price of energy that the customers receive. Today, we're at the mercy, as shown earlier, where the LYAC just rises and rises, and we have no control. It comes down, we give it back, and all that. Next. We will not be able to meet demand with our new power plant, as can be seen here. We have 419 megawatts today. We take 249 out, which is I'm sorry, in 2015, we take 249 out. We only had 170. That you always have to, minimum contingency is at least the two largest unit, which is 132. So therefore, we only had about 38 megawatts over and above that reserve margin. Here we are in 2017, we're down to 27. We've been growing about 5 megawatts per year. So if you look at 2021, we'll be down to about 5 megawatts. And again, the growth is coming. With the new power plant, we've added base load. We really have enough capacity because again here, we're going to be putting in smaller units, not the big units, the 60-some megawatts. See, if we have 66 megawatts, we have to have 132 megawatt of reserve. By putting in smaller units, now the biggest unit here is the MEC 809, which is 44 times 2, 88. So therefore, there's more power to serve everybody. Because when one is under overhaul and the other one fails, you still have energy to serve the public. And that's how the utility does its reserve. The important thing here to note too is that here is what we try to generate only 2% of our energy from diesel, which is from our peakers, because they're not very efficient, they're there for standby. But today, we're up to 16.5 because, again, we don't have adequate base load when we lost 3 and 4. So when we get to the new power plant, they'll be relegated to, again, standby, down 1%. So the combination of what we mentioned earlier, 26% of renewable energy, 72% from base load, and 1% will meet our energy needs by beginning 2022. What does that mean in terms of cost and savings? Today, generation mix at $65 a barrel residual fuel oil translates to about $85 a barrel ultra low sulfur diesel, about $195 million to generate the energy required for Guam. This is just fuel costs. If EPA came in here and said, you must convert all your power plants or you will do it now, and we had to, and we don't build any other plant as an alternative, just converting, never mind the conversion costs required, the investment to convert our plant, it will cost us another $51 million a year on fuel costs. So because it's more expensive, and the existing plants will have to be degraded in efficiency. So it's going to cost us a lot more money if we don't do anything to comply with US EPA. If we move forward with the new power plant and we put in the 80 megawatts of renewables, in 2021 you're looking at dropping from 195, provided of course this $65 barrel is what it is then, to about 195. So you are going to be now reduce our fuel cost by almost $10 million a year with the renewables and the new power plant. With the new power plant and we equip it with natural gas, because the natural gas equivalent is about $58 a barrel of oil, we could reduce our annual fuel bill by as much as $54 million. So what is all of this pointing to? This is all pointing to, and I wanted to note that earlier in that LYAC curve, this is all pointing to the low point of about total rates of about 18 to 20 cents a kilowatt hour versus today we're at close to 25. That goes back to what it was in 2005. So that will bring our energy costs back there. But again, these are the tools that we have to make something like that happen. Next. Why build a new plant in Ucadu? Increased reliability is close to with that substation I showed you in Harmon with all the underground transmission line, close to all the population. 60% of our load is there. No tsunami, storm surges could reach that. Otherwise, the whole island is gone, right? We can run areas that are underground. For example, the Tumon Bay all the way to the hospital. We're doing doing underground work for the rest of the laterals. We can run that whole area through a storm. And again, more importantly, all the other areas will have power their substation, which will allow us to recover everyone quickly. Environmental benefit, again, not using 3 million gallons a day of water, and does not impact the aquifer. The 3 million gallons a day, right now we used about an additional 5 million gallons a month from our cabers 1 and 2. So that's 5 million gallons a month that we will not be using and will be saving in the aquifer. It's compatible industrial. The area is really a mixed use as it is. The technology located throughout is used in many mixed developments without adverse community impacts. Next. There's the substation I mentioned earlier. Again, it's right in the area is 60% of our load. The power plant is there, right? Right now we have to bring, it's like having the power plant right next to your heart. Right now, our power plant is really at our foot. It's down in Cabras. We have to go through the mountains, bring the transmission line to Agana, all the way to this substation. That's what happened to Puerto Rico. Their power plant was way down south, and their load was all north. So when that broke like matchsticks, they couldn't get power right away to a lot of people. So again, this is the major benefit of it being right there. Next. Tsunamis. This is from a study being done by the University of Hawaii in conjunction with the Office of Homeland Security. It's saying tsunamis from the Japan area would impact the Upper Harbor, and this is what they look like. The red areas is where, right here is where our power plant is. So again, potentially tsunamis in the future. And I'm not sure, 10, 20 years perhaps is what they're talking about, but anytime, could happen because of more and more activity. So I didn't look for this. They came looking for us, and they said, well, by the way, we were thinking about that, and well, can I use your drawing, and I want to show it. So here it is. The Homeland Security and University of Hawaii have been studying this under a grant. Next. In terms of the Ukudu as the best location, we did look at several sites, more actually than this, but we broke it down to this area. Cabras PD, the Tangisan Power Plant. This is an area close to the Northern Wastewater Treatment Plant, and this is the Ukudu site. The biggest thing here with Tangisan and Cabras, okay, is that first of all, there's not adequate space, so we can't build it there anyway. Secondly, there are in the where's the again the tsunami risk. So the other thing is, in terms of comparing the one next to the wastewater treatment plant and the Ukudu, it's a high interconnection of 115 kV system, another interconnection cost. What does that mean? Next. That means that, okay, that means that if we go just next page, that means that the interconnection cost for the plant to be over next to the wastewater treatment will cost the ratepayer is close to $80 million more just for that. Because now you're going to have 115 kV lines and about 3 of them. Imagine those 90-foot towers with the lines. You're going to have 3 of those pole lines going all the way from the wastewater treatment, either by that road going to Lovers Point area, or through Route 3, Route 1, past GRMC, right to the substation. And I'll show you that in a minute what I mean. Next. Well, here we started with trying minimum footprint of 25. We added really because we wanted physical security and needing to be able to buffer ourselves. There are people more and more concerned about our plant being there. So then we had the opportunity to buy these 60 acres, which actually is adequate, provides us more than adequate, but it provides us the needed buffer that we can really isolate ourselves from all the adjacent customers. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. As far as physical security, we'll have a gate within a gate, so this will be one of the most secure power plants. Our physical security today is not the best in the world. It's not hard. They're right. The power plant are right close to the road, so therefore, things could happen there. We went through the legislative process again because of maximum public input. a decision by the electric body, transparency. More importantly, this is a major decision for the island. This is power plant, probably the last conventional power plant that will be built in the next 30 years or more. So again, this is the plan that really has a lot of stake in the future. Again, being for the next 30 years, but more importantly, being able for us to put renewables, lower our costs, and increase reliability of the system. Next. There's thought about what the power plant smoke will look like. So here's Cabras right here. You can see the haze. Here's the MEC 8 and 9 operating. You can see the haze. These are PD 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 that have been retired a long time ago. You see no haze on the top. This is Temis 7. As you can see, there's no haze. We turned it on just to show the difference. The new power plant will actually be clearer and much more, it burns the same type of fuel, ultra-low sulfur diesel, but it will have additional emission control requirement on it. So again, here's what people are used to, but this is what more or less is going to happen. Here's Machechi power plant. You can see a haze there in the back, which is why you're seeing a little bit here, but this power plant runs every day from about 7, 8 o'clock to about 6 o'clock at night to support the renewables, because the renewables are going like this. So this is how we mitigate this every day. You do this into about August, but as you can see, it's not the same type of... This burns ultra-low sulfur diesel, which is the cleanest fuel and approved by US EPA. Next. Here are the Cabras 1 and 2, the microgram per cubic meter for NOx, SO2, carbon monoxide, and all of that. The new power plant, as you can see, is substantially lower, and it's actually even substantially lower than the national ambient air quality standard. So this is the standard of the land now. It used to be 2 hours, and they made it even more stringent, and this is the most latest stringent. And again, our emissions on the new power plant will be cleaner, much cleaner than this one. So there is a power plant, but it's not the same type of technology and everything. It's not the same type of emissions. No? It will be safe and quiet, very clean emissions, reliable and efficient, very important parts for our system. Diversified fuel options, ultra-low sulfur diesel, and natural gas. So, imagine going down to the gas station and your car can burn both diesel and gas. You just fill up with whichever is cheaper. No? So that's what the new power plant will be able to do. It exceeds permitting regulation. It stabilizes and improves grid reliability. Again, this is part of trying to add more and more of the renewables. Very important in all of this is that it's going to reduce and stabilize fuel surcharges in the future. As you can see, as I was showing the renewables coming in at 8.5 cents, the more we put that in and the lower fuel pricing we get, then it's going to start stabilizing the rates. And again, eliminate tsunami and storm surge risk, but we have an opportunity to build a plan. We might as well build it with this, all of the not being a question in the future. Vibration, again, this thing will be designed to plan, including vibration monitors. Odorless, the stack height helps dilute the odor, and it's really even lower with natural gas. So ultra-low sulfur diesel is what we've been using today, and it's even the same fuel that all our cars burn today. All our cars and trucks in the island burnt. Okay. And again, as far as leak detection, spill containment, and all of that, we have this power plant will have this concrete berms and all of them to make sure that we protect from any type of fuel leak. So is it safe for the community? Yes. Burning much cleaner fuel. We have 30 acres of buffer around a 30-acre plan. Aesthetically built with maximum safety for the community and everything in hand. We're not just going to build a power plant. We're going to build something that looks nice. And I think you've seen, I'll show you, there's a lot. We have a rendition, and we have other areas that really try to work these power plants within the community area, within the commercial area, everywhere. It can coexist with GRMC. as it does in other communities in the nation, especially since the power reliability needs of the hospital is critical to patient care. Next. This is MATEC, Medical Area Total Energy Plan, right in Boston. And again, it's a 112 megawatt plan, more than 100,000 inpatient, 2.4 outpatients every year come in this area. These are all the different medical related areas right adjacent to the power plant. Next. This is what the site view of the power plant looks like. Clear stacks. This is water vapor. This is what you use for cooling. This is what we use our 3 million gallons for cooling and that's already treated non-potable water, which is what considered you can irrigate your farm or use it for anything. It's just you cannot drink it. No? Next. This is a site view from apartment units right down the street from this power plant. Our stack will not be as high as this. I think ours will be more like 150. Next. If we took our 60-acre buffer that we're going to have and enclose it in this area, really, this is what the 60-acre looks like. So really, instead of them right being here, we have this buffer around. And these are all the ancillary facilities, medical, that are within this 60-acre buffer. Next. Here's the, again, here's a layout of what it may look like. The power plant's here. Here's GRMC. This is 600 from land to land. So this is over 1,000 feet from here to there. 1,000 feet is like from here to the Superior Court, from here to the Paseo Stadium, and again from here to the like police department area. Here, this is what I was talking about. The wastewater treatment plant will be up here in this corner. It's up here in this corner. So we have to bring the transmission line down. You're going to have to come this way, or you're going to have to come this way to Route 3, come in here, right across next to GRMC, into the power plant. So it eliminates a lot of this transmission needs, and furthermore, the total cost for the transmission, and saves about $80 million total to the ratepayers. Next. The new power plant is really going to be an IPP model. GPA will not be operating or maintaining it. The IPP will own and operate and maintain the plant for the next 25 years with an option for 5 more years beyond that. They will finance and construct the whole project, turn it over to GPA, the system, like the transmission and the pipelines, but not the power plant. They will operate and maintain that. And again, the ownership of the whole power plant will come back to GPA, to the ratepayers of Guam in about 25 to 30 years, depending on that contract. And why does that happen? That way we control the destiny. You can recapitalize, put money into that plant and make it run again for a longer period. You have the land back and you have everything. So again, it's an IPP operate similar to what we have done with MEC 8 and 9 and TEMIS 7. But again, it's a build, operate, and then transfer back at the end of 25 years. Next. So again, in summary, the plan will be safe, clean, reliable, efficient, provide cost, typhoon, compatible with renewable energy, very important for our future energy needs, save $80 million, lead to stable fuel costs and surcharges, which is, for all these years, we never had any tools to try and control what our final cost may be, eliminates anomalies and meets future energy demands. And again, we're just asking, we ask for your support for Bill 223-34, greatest benefits and lowest cost possible. Next. And then, I'm open to questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Benavente. I do have some questions, but first of all, I want to thank you for your hard work, also the staff at GPA, for the very thorough presentation and the very thought-out plan that you have prepared. And I know it has taken years and years to make this move forward. Also, thank you for being very versatile as far as power distribution is concerned, especially when we lost Cappers 3 and 4. GPA and the whole GPA agency, staff, team, and everyone. Thank you for their hard work under your management, and also thank you for CCU for their continued support for the Guam Power Authority. Just very simple questions, just to address some concerns that the public might have. Of course, we've had many discussions and meetings to clarify a lot of the challenges or perhaps some of the concerns that we did have in the past. But now we're looking towards moving forward, and so hopefully we can do what we can to address the concerns of the public and perhaps satisfy their concerns. I'd like to go back to the Cabras 3 and 4 power plant slide, please. It's in the front, the first couple slides. There you go. There you go. Yes, this is the one. So in this slide, you can go ahead and project it so that the people that are watching this informational hearing can see. In this slide, you stated that settlement funds earmarked to defray part of the new power plant infrastructure cost. So can you just please tell us a little bit about the settlement funds, how much is going to be used, and, you know, according with the bond covenants, where is the rest going to be put forth?
Yeah. Actually, the way it works is that because it's the funds are coming in for Cabras 3 and 4 part of the bonds, whatever money we receive from that's related to the infrastructure itself for Cabras 3 and 4 should be invested to repair Cabras 3 and 4 or to replace Cabras 3 and 4. So this is where whatever investment coming in will be utilized to offset, for example, the power plant is one cost, and then you have the transmission and pipelines are the other cost. So we're trying to, whatever settlement we get, we're trying to utilize for that. So then again, that's money that doesn't increase the total amount that we have to pay annually for that.
Okay.
So. And
how much has GPA received so far with the insurance settlement, and how much do we project?
That's 84. It's an advance payment. It's not the total settlement number.
Okay.
The parties continue to work towards a settlement number, and as you know, the insurers are way down here, and we're up here, so they're working together towards getting a mutually acceptable number.
Okay. So we still haven't agreed upon a number between the insurance company?
Not yet. So, but they continue to work, getting closer and closer. What
was it insured under? What was the amount that it was insured under?
All our assets are insured maximum $300 million. But that doesn't mean that that's the money that we're getting. It just means that it covers any of our assets.
Okay.
So the power plant, Cabras 3 and 4 was constructed for about 125. So
okay.
As you can see, 125 back in 1995 is what it goes on. But again, the numbers are not done yet as to where we're heading. No?
Okay, so this $125 million insurance coverage for Cabras 3 and 4 that was estimated, is that what you're saying, in 95?
No, our total coverage is 300 for everything.
Oh, up to date.
Yeah,
okay.
But I'm just saying the plan itself cost us 125 back then. No?
Okay, thank you. And can we go to the slides where we discuss the current LYAC raise? One more, please. There we go. Maybe one more forward.
One more.
Let me see.
There.
There, that's one. This is the one, the chart, yes. So just so the public understands, because there's always a concern. GPA also did a lot of forward movement with the CCU to keep the LYAC rate, even when it was rising at an affordable rate. And so now we're seeing kind of a jump, and then perhaps in May we'll see another $7 add-on. But can you just give us a brief history that what GPA did when it received some of the insurance money from Cabras 3 and 4?
In 2016, really oil started to creep up.
Right.
But we're saying, you know, prognostication of what then was that it's going to stay levelized. So we kind of held the rates then. But it did rise, and we were behind in our total amount.
How
so
much
finally,
did it rise? How much?
Finally, in 2017, we've had to raise the rate because I think we were like 7 million behind, no?
Yeah.
But then, again, every LYAC period, you project based on our consultants, based on some benchmark, what the oil price may be over the next LYAC period.
Okay.
So then that was projected, and unfortunately, prices keep on going up.
Rising.
So what we did was instead of trying to recover 100%, we asked the commission approved that we just recover 50% in hopes that fuel oil prices will stabilize or come down. So we came to the next LYAC period, and again, instead of coming down, it kept on going up. So we asked again for 50%. So this is now the third time around where we asked for 75%, so hopefully it's stabilized. Our under recovery is close to $18 million.
Perhaps if I could help that. I love these schedules, but they're built for accountants. So, well, that's what I'm handing out to you and Senator Lee. If you look at the schedule I've handed out, I went all the way back to 2014. And in 2014, the approved LYAC rate was 17.2 cents per kilowatt hour. And we actually ended the period in July of 2014 with an under recovery of $1,137,000.
And can you just explain what under recovery is?
Under recovery means that at the end of the period, what we aim for is zero. We don't want to over recover, we don't want to under recover. We just want to pay for the cost of the oil and all the associated costs of oil. So at the end of the period, we had $1.1 million in under recovery, which meant we paid out more than we charged our customers to recover. So if you go down to the next slide, in August to the end of October, the rate was 17.6 cents. And at the end of that period, we had an under recovery of $4.6 million. And that's when the price of oil really dropped. That was when it was up close to $100 a barrel. Then it started to drop. So it dropped down, and in November, we were able to lower the rates to our customers in November 1st of 2014, which was a mid-term correction. By the time we got to January 31st of 2015, we had an over-recovery of $661,000. See, we're trying to get to zero. That's, you know. In February of 2015, we lowered the rate again to 10 cents.
Okay. Just to clarify for the public. In 2014, August to October 2014, you had an under recovery of 4.6 million.
Yes, that's
and
correct.
And so what is positive is in the next year, in the next couple of months, November 2014 to January 2015, you balanced out, well, not balanced out, but this would have been improved, and now you over-recovered
right.
661,000. So you managed to kind of clear out that $4 million in under-recovery.
Right. There's a 3-cent drop. If you look at the difference between the 17 to the 14, we were over-recovered by 600,000, so we dropped 4 cents. That's when everybody really saw their power bill drop like mad. So we which made everybody happy. So we had an over-recovery of $1.7 million. We dropped it, we anticipated a slight problem, so we increased it very slight, and then we under-recovered $2.6 million, $2.4 million. We thought, okay, let's see, we project maybe the rates will go down. So we lowered it to 8.6 cents, which is the lowest it ever has been, and we had an under-recovery of 2.6 million. And we said, okay, that's not too bad, you know? So we said, let's keep it. Well, At the end of January 31st, we had an under recovery of $9 million, and we took $4.6 million from the insurance proceeds, which was, we have different insurance. When John said $300 million, we have business interruption policy, we have environmental policies, and then we have property and casualty policies. So therefore, from the business interruption policy, we took $4.6 million from the business interruption receipts that we got in advance, and we lowered that. We said, let's see what we can do to help. We knew we would have a problem, so in February of that year, we raised the rates. We got the rate increase up to 10.5 cents, and at the end of that period, in July of 2017, we had an under recovery of $14 million. That's because the price started to really climb.
And can you please restate what under recovery means?
Okay.
Yeah.
Under recovery means GPA paid out more for the fuel than it was able to collect from its customers. And the deal is it should collect from its customers the right amount to pay for the fuel. There should be zero at the end of the period. That's what we strive for. The projections, now the last three down here are projections. We raised the rates to 11.7 cents in August of 2017. This is this past August. And what happens is we projected that we would have an under recovery of 17 cents in January. I don't have the actual number because this is a schedule that I had prepared before January ended. Yeah, this is our estimate, 17 million. With the projection of the increase that went into effect on February 1st of this year, we still project an under recovery of 12 million. When that May correction is going to be made to 15.4, we still believe we'll still have a $9 million under recovery. So that's the situation that we have. Now we'll try our best to see where oil is going, but oil is very erratic right now, and the best proof I can give you is we had 3 price hikes in gas on Guam in January. It wasn't one time in the month. It was 3 times in that month. The price was just going up. So that's what we have to deal with. So we are trying very hard. And one of the things I want to clear up is I heard somebody on the radio talk and said, oh, they lost $100 million in hedges. We have not hedged this entire period because hedging works if you know what the crystal ball is going to say, but we don't. And to give you an example, an anecdote for that, when the price started to fall in November, remember back in November of 2014, 2 of the major airlines that were serving Guam, I won't mention their names, we don't need to give them advertisements, one's gone. One hedged and one didn't hedge. So the one that hedged got hurt because they had to pay. And I need to explain what hedging means. What hedging is it's a bet between 2 parties. So GPA says we want to set an upper level. We don't want to pay for, if the price of oil goes above $80, you're the better on the other side, you pay the difference. We pay up to $80. If it goes to 100, you put in $20. But when you make those hedges, the opposing counterparty will tell you what the lower number is. So I say, fine, you don't want us to go, you will be responsible if it goes above 80, you be responsible if it goes below 65. So if it drops below 65, say to 50, we have to pay the counterparty $15. So it's good if you really, really have a good crystal ball. And if you don't, it's better to just go with the market, okay?
Thank you.
I hope this clarifies it. This is a little simpler diagram than the accountants.
This does, and we will do a committee report, and we'll ensure that these anticipated rates are available for the public on our legislative website when we submit the committee report. So in May, we're expected to see another increase. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but what the PUC approved is a rate increase in February of 2018 of 14.7 cents. That's what you see on the second to the last line. And then they approved an increase to 15.4 cents starting May 1st. So it's a 6-month LYAC period, but midpoint, they're making a change. What month? Midpoints? you say?
Midpoint of the 6 months, from February to August,
Okay.
okay?
And we don't know what month that would be.
Oh, no, May. May 1st.
May 1st.
Yeah,
okay.
so in other words, February to
August.
April,
Right,
May to July,
Okay.
and then the next period that you'll see will be August again. It's always August then, okay?
Okay, and is there a reason why we're not projecting after July 31st?
Because nobody knows the crystal ball.
market, okay.
And see, July 31st is out there, and anything could happen. I mean, the price of oil could drop again. It's very volatile.
We update again by June 15. We provide a latest update to what we believe it may be, what the under recovery or over recovery are, and then again go through that same process. So every 6 months is the set adjustment period.
So anticipate something coming out in June.
Well,
Perhaps.
our projections.
Yeah.
The PUC won't make a decision until
course.
July.
Right.
With the rate effective on August 1st.
Yeah, sure.
Okay?
45 days
So,
before.
so I hope this has been helpful, Senator.
Yes, it is. It's very helpful.
I'm
Thank
smiling now.
you. Thank you. Can we move forward to the underground transmission system in the north? Mr. Beneventi, you stated that the Department of Defense, in this pink, I don't know, outline there,
Yep.
what is the distance that the Department of Defense will be doing this underground transmission system, and what kind of agreement or MOA or MOU that, that allowed this to happen?
Well, they're a customer. Like right now, they're an 80% customer of GPA. So therefore, they bring with the marine base, and again, it was our recommendation a long time ago that they put in an underground because most of their facilities are underground. So therefore, they're a customer of us, and we want the power meters running even through a storm. So that's why we pushed for them to have reliable power through a storm scenario. They will pay for the entire infrastructure, and then they will turn that infrastructure over to GPA. So I'm not quite sure. This might be about 8 miles, 10 miles, something like that. Yeah.
And what kind of agreement? Is it just that they're just going to do this because they love Guam so much, and then they're just going to hand it over to us?
No, that's part of their. If they
of-
want energy, then they have to put it in. Just like when a customer comes to us and we have a program for them to hook up power.
Did we
Yep.
have to put forth anything in part of this MOA or kind of agreement that you had with them?
Yeah, we've been working on the plans. We've been approving specifications, providing all of that. So they'll be funding this the whole project.
Can we get a copy of the agreement that led to this plan?
Okay, I'll see what that
Okay.
is. Okay.
Thank you.
And Senator, could I just add something? Mr. Beneventi is quite correct. We try very hard to put all the major substations underground. And in the green line that you see coming down from Anderson over to Dedido, that is also an underground transmission line that exists already. That's already built. So that means that the only open section is between Dedido and Harmon. So if we are able to close that section, the whole northern end of the island, the central and northern end, all the substations will be underground.
The Air
that's a
Force,
benefit.
the Air Force built this line for about $13 million, and then turn it over to GPA. So.
Okay, thank you. Can we move forward to the renewable portfolio standards slide, RPS achieved by this one right here? You mentioned, Mr. Beneventi, that by a certain year that there's going to be a degradation in the photovoltaics, the PV system. So I was just wondering, why would the degradation be in place? Is there a maintenance plan, or what would be that result? How did
It's
you
a
come to that?
natural degradation of the solar PV itself. So even with whatever maintenance you put, it's just like the batteries in our car. Yeah. Over time, it has a finite life in most cases. So that's why if you're planning to meet a standard here, then you got to have more energy here to allow for that degradation. So that's how that's set up.
So it's kind of like we're doing a power purchase agreement with the as-is farm, and then the maintenance plan in place is just for warranty, but nothing.
Yeah. With a power purchase agreement, we have a minimum guarantee, and that's what they have to meet.
A minimum
so as
guarantee.
long as they meet that, then there's no penalty. If they produce more, then we can buy more of the costs. But everything includes maintenance costs, all of those things are all by the proponent itself. We just purchase the energy at this price based on the scheduled prices over the next 20 years. There's a 1% escalator, and again, the minimum energy amount. We have no other obligations but that.
Thank you. Can we move forward to the slide, why we need a power plant?
Yep. Back.
There we go. I understand that the intent here, please correct me if I'm wrong, this 180 megawatt power plant is going to replace all of our legacy power plants.
Correct. Retirement of Cabras 1, 2, and the damaged 3 and 4.
Okay. Yeah. Will there be an additional requirement for the fuel being transferred to the 180 megawatt power plant, or fuel storage? What is the plan in place for that?
There's a right-of-way going all the way from the Cabras power plant fuel tank area, right behind the Cabras 1 and 2. It's a 15-mile pipeline that we have there now that actually was serving Tengisan power plant. That's how we got fuel to Tengisan. So we're going to use the right-of-way, remove the existing pipeline, and put in both ultra-low sulfur diesel and a natural gas pipeline. Because the plant is going to run first on ultra-low sulfur diesel, and if the prices continue to stay or head up north for fuel oil, then we can go out for what they call a floating storage and regasification facility for natural gas and a natural gas contract. So then we can reduce our costs for the system. Yes, you're going to put a floating storage. We're thinking right out at the edge of Upper Harbor. It's where the floating storage can. We had a study done several years ago. We're just going to have to update it. We're thinking from there, and we're not going to store LNG on land, but on the barge. And that's right, on the barge. It's way out there. And then they'll gasify it and send it through the pipeline, just like you do everywhere in the nation and all that.
So you'll use the existing path of the current pipeline to add in the ULSD and the natural gas. Yeah,
we're going to construct both at the same time so that we don't dig up the whole place, because we know that's our alternative.
Sure.
And can I just add to that, Senator? One of the benefits is, if you remember that slide that showed where the pipeline comes up and then it goes to Tengisan, because of the location we've selected, the pipeline stops and goes over to the plant. That old pipeline that goes to Tengisan will be taken out. That's a benefit to all those property owners in that area, because there's no longer going to be a pipeline that goes on a legal easement through their area. And the other thing I think you asked was, you were kind of concerned about all the collateral equipment. Like, we are going to have to put in water pipe from the wastewater treatment over, and do probably some additional treatment for the water. So all of those things are all included in all the GPA management and Mr. Benaventi's calculations. And that's why we've said very clearly this site is the best site. And this site allows us to put all of these collateral pieces in, plus get a private-public partner to build the 180 megawatt plant, plus infuse all the 180 into the system for the renewables at no increase in the base rate. If you select a site different from this site, that's where the $80 million that we'll have to get from our ratepayers comes from.
Yes.
Okay? And I just want to add one more thing.
Sure.
I'm just trying to give you some, because I think I know what you want to know. And
yes.
one of the things that and I forgot what I was going to say. Age is catching up. But really, the site that we have selected is the site that we selected also allows us in the future when two things. First off, the 180 is not a number we pulled out of the air. We've been saying it for a long time. We said we need to replace Cabras 1 and 2. Those are the oldest ones. And they've been derated by GPA to 60 megawatts each. That's why we said we would replace 180 megawatts. And then we said we could replace another 60 megawatts if we took out 3 and 4, if it made economical sense. So that's where the 180 came from. 3 and 4 are roughly 80 megawatts, but we said we could do, if we put them all together, you could get away with 180. So the 180 is the Cabras 1 and 2, and 3 and 4 took themselves out. So it was supposed to be 120, and if it made economic sense to take 3 and 4 out, you know, the cost would be lower for our ratepayers, we'd do it. And it just so happens that's the way it's working out. So that's where the 180 comes from.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If I may add one more thing, Madam Chair, in
Yes.
terms of renewables, because again, it's out there that we 24/7 renewables, right? But it's also, you know, solar PV is quite land intensive. So the first 180 megawatts we're putting in is going to occupy about 680 acres of property on the island. No? So as we look for another 180 acres, that's another 700 acres of land. And even if you also look at rooftops, and you have 30,000 home, 1,000 square foot, and all of the rooftops are perfect for solar PV. That's another equivalent of about 180 acres, 180 megawatts. So really to get to 100%, when you add this all up, it's going to take about close to, again, this is without any reserve, just to meet our annual energy need. You need 3,000 plus acres.
For 100% of solar PV.
For 100%. So this is where we take it a step at a time, see what other big lots are available for utility scale, low-cost energy, and then take it next level, you know, as we move forward.
You're planning it in phases.
Phases, yeah.
Okay. Can we go to the cost and savings per scenario?
Yeah.
Just a couple slides over. One more? There you go. The US EPA forced compliance excluding penalties. What is the current penalties that we are facing now?
I last counted about 150 million, and
Can
that's
they take
because
that back?
well, see,
If you're transitioning, you know?
part of our agreement now, well, we're working towards a consent decree, and hopefully we can work something out over the next few months here. Really was we gave them a plan in January 2015, which included constructing a new plan and retiring Cabras 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so therefore, if we're moving and we're moving, you know, and we have been moving, we can work out this consent decree, then we can talk about really wiping out those penalties, or if anything, just a minor penalty at the most from what we can see. But if we don't do anything at all, then they could come right back and say, you know, and they can tell us to burn. We can comply by just burning ultra-low sulfur diesel. We'll have to put in some investment, but immediately, not even thinking about the investment or fuel price, because the ultra-low sulfur diesel is more expensive than the RFO. It's like 65 RFO is $85 ultra-low sulfur diesel. So therefore, and our units are not as efficient. So therefore, the total cost jumps substantially. See, that's where the $51 million comes from.
Okay. And then I have one last question.
Sure.
The next slide. Okay. Yes. Under the environmental benefits, the second bullet does not impact the aquifer. How is this determined? How did you? What can you say that can validate this statement?
We work with Dr. Jensen, we're going around and ask you know, because we have to, we also got the map of the aquifer and all
At
that.
Weary?
Yes, Weary, yeah. And we looked at the location because you have the main aquifer, and then on the sides of the aquifer, the main aquifer, the water really starts flowing out of Guam. Because the salt water, you know, you fill up the aquifer and it just continues to flow out. So therefore, we're on the outflow side of they call it the parabasal. Wait a minute, one is basal, one's parabasal. But what I'm saying is we're not in the main aquifer for and whatever happens, if anything seriously ever happens, it won't, diesel fuel or whatever will not flow into the water, drinking water. It'll flow out towards the ocean. Not that it will happen because it really, you know, it hasn't, you know.
But this 60 acres still lies on top of the aquifer?
Can I help you with that?
Sure, yes.
Madam Senator, if you look at his testimony that was given on February 9th, he says that it doesn't affect the aquifer that we use to drink water from. There's an aquifer on all of the island, but it doesn't affect this one part. So his opinion was that there was no risk, minimal to no risk on this section. And we're saying that if we build it right and we put all the newest technology in, there's no risk.
And did you do a official environmental impact statement?
We did the short term. Oh,
For the public.
oh, there it is. Okay. I built, yes, we did a short form, and really the long form is done when the process for permitting the power plant. Because everything that is found in that process needs to be mitigated from there. But we have the short form. We looked at is this the problem here? Is there aquifer and all of that? And yes, we did do one.
And can we get a copy of that?
Sure.
Thank you. And
But
so,
here's the as you can see, the flow of water is out towards the ocean.
The arrows that are currently on the screen that are pointing out is displaying the flow of water from the aquifer. And it's showing that it's flowing out to the ocean.
Right, and you see the real dark blue?
Yes.
That's really the aquifer. That's the heart of...
Where we drink the water.
Yeah. At one time we were looking of... one site we were looking at was the Marble substation. But it was right over the aquifer. And in addition, it's much further away, higher cost and everything. So we just eliminated it.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
you know, I think I'll certainly need to do a review of what was discussed on Friday. I believe there was a hearing in Senator Atta's committee, and you had this discussion, and the official from Weary was present. And it was my understanding that the official from Weary had mentioned that the well would not be impacted, but could not answer the question with regard to the aquifer. So now you're presenting this. Is this new information, or is this the same information as?
I think he may be saying the same thing.
Okay.
And I think he's going to put it down in writing to yourselves.
And present
also,
that to...
there was a question asking GWA, and GWA is preparing their response to that.
Okay.
Also.
We
so
appreciate
we'll be submitting,
that.
Yeah, we'll be
Thank you.
submitting that. Yeah.
And I'd just like to add that, you know, we are working real hard to also, we're cognizant of people's concerns. So what we did is we looked at what you had to go through on a land use commission process. So there was, for example, a requirement that you had to get clearance from agriculture. So we're getting that. We've got that. I believe we've turned that into Senator Tom Atta's committee. So we're supplementing the record with all the things, and all we see is we don't have any real problems. Yeah. Okay?
Okay. Senator Lee, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, and this might be a dumb question, but I just don't see it addressed on any of these slides, and maybe just for the public if they're also concerned. Can you talk a little bit about the funding total for this project and the sources of funding for this project?
Yeah. The source of funding will be IPP, Independent Power Producer Finance. So they finance the project over the 25, 30 years. And what we do is we pay an annual, what they call capacity charge. So in that is the financing for the project. So we're not going to be pulling out $400 million. They'll be putting the investment into WAMP, and then we'll be paying them so much a year. For example, MEC 8 and 9 today, which is 19 years now since this IPP project started. We're paying them about $18 million a year for the investment of the power plant. So in January 2019, the power plant now becomes the ownership of GPA, and that $19 million now goes away. See, we own the power plant. It's like, so that's what I mean. The IPP will make the investment. All we need to be prepared for is what is the annual capacity charge that we're going to be paying. So the $18 million that's coming from MEC 9, the reduction is earmarked now to help with the new power plant. So like the chairman mentioned, all of these different things, the TEMIS 7, $5 million reduction in capital investment, capital cost per year. That's already $22 million. This now will all go towards paying the annual fuel charge so that the base rate will not be increased. So that's what we mean by all of that.
Thank you, Mr. Benavente. So if you can just, once again for the record, so we're very clear, the independent power producer, the IPP, what's the total amount for that? It's just, okay, so you just pay $18 million annually, and
no,
then...
we don't know. We estimate the project will be in the $300 to $400 million, okay. But we don't know. We're in the process of bidding the project now. So we just took the high estimate of 400, and then we make our plans on that. But the project, the bids won't come into for that until late summer.
Understand.
And
okay.
the contract. But again, if you take about a $400 million investment, you're talking at about somewhere in the $24 to $28 million a year capital annual cost. And that's what we're working to negate so that we don't have to come out and ask for a base rate.
I think we need to stress something, that the bids will come in. It'll be a bid that says, we would like you to pay us per kilowatt hour so much, like the PPA for renewable energy. And then there is the capacity charge. And that's what Mrs. De Benavente is saying, is we believe we can cover these costs as well as the collateral costs with no increase in rates. GPA has been doing a lot of cost cutting. And you know, one of the things that I know everybody was sensitive about was we refunded recently our debt to a refinancing, and we realized $500,000 in savings. Well, that's an example of what we're taking and socking away, and to make sure that we don't have a rate increase for our ratepayers at this location with these power plants.
Okay, thank you. Are you gonna, going on to slide number 40, tsunami potential impact. I know you had mentioned that you had discussions with Guam Homeland Security, but I'm totally uneducated about the risk of a tsunami, potential tsunami. Never in my...
Yeah, they believe that within the next 10 to 30 years, that there'll be a major earthquake in the Japan area. And so they're, based on that, and again, we can ask them but based on their briefing of myself, based on that, they wanted to see what the impact is on Upper Harbor. They were doing the study for Upper Harbor. At the same time, we're saying, okay, well, we want you to study us a little bit more too. And based on that study, it's saying this is what's going to happen in Upper Harbor. And the red is going to be the higher elevated water levels. No? And again, our power plant is right there.
Yeah, and I guess I should note on the bottom of the page, it says source tsunami modeling for the Upper Harbor area. And then this is done by a PhD from UH Manoa. Yeah,
they're contracted, I guess, from a grant through the, I'm not sure, FEMA or Homeland Security to do this analysis. So this is just, they authorize us to use this particular thing, but the study, I think, is coming out later this summer.
Thank you. On slide 41, where we kind of discussed Ukudu and all the other locations that you were considering, so Tengisin, Cabras PD. I just wanted to ask, how long did the CCU and GPA take to kind of analyze and thoroughly consider all of these options?
We've been doing the integrated resource plan, really started several years ago. In terms of the analysis as to the land area, it's actually probably a little bit over 2 years. In terms of the approval, and then we didn't get, we had to go through the PUC and get approval to construct a new plan. And that didn't happen until October 26th. It happened October 2016. So that's when we went out now and started to find land area that we can utilize in the Ukudu area. And it's taken us that long. So this is actually a plus 2 year, more than 2 years process just to get the location.
Could I also add to that? With the power plants, you need cooling water. And so what we are doing in Cabras is those Cabras power plants, for baseload power plants, are using seawater cooling for 1, 2, 3, and 4. 8 and 9 are using radiators. So that's a very expensive proposition and not stable. That's why the Ukudu area went to the top of the list, because the wastewater plant generates about 6 million gallons of wastewater a day, treated wastewater. And so if we use that, we only need about 3 million gallons of wastewater.
And that's the gray water access.
The gray water, right.
Okay.
Right. So that's why.
With the aquifer backup.
No, well, the aquifer water that is used at Cabras 1 and 2 is steam water. There's 2 loops in the Cabras 1 and 2. So by going to what we're going to, we believe we may be able to save on the aquifer water also.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Maybe you can just talk a little bit I know this was also addressed in Friday's hearing, but maybe if you could just address the major concerns of any of the landowners or the neighbors in the area. I know you had mentioned GRMC, and you spent several slides kind of giving an example of other areas in other parts of the country, like in Boston, where there's, it's pretty dense area. But I guess my question would be, if the city planners of Boston could do it again from scratch, kind of like what we're doing now, would they have put it there? Would they have selected that site?
Okay, that's a good question. But we only put that slide up to show that you can have power plants that exist in the middle of a city, okay? What I'd like to help you understand, and what some of the property owners, especially in the area, came up with, and I started to explain to them, I said, look, if you say to us, put that power plant somewhere, then we would look for an industrial area. And Ukudu actually is an industrial area. 64% of the land there is zone M1. And there's one lot that's zone M2. It was zone M2 by the military. One of the things some of these landowners didn't understand is that their zone was M1. Somewhere along the line when they got their property back, one person told me, for example, that his property, his cousin said, well, let's do M1 because it's the highest use that you can do, right?
Because you can do all of the different...
You can do everything.
Up until M1,
right. And so I've talked to some of the property owners, and I've explained to them, I said, but your lot is zone M1. For example, the lot that Cesar Cabot would like to build his medical center on next to GRMC is zoned M1. And when you have an M1 property zone, there are all these things like recycling center, automotive, that people can do without any process because it's zone M1. And so I was telling them, I said, no, you shouldn't build apartment buildings here. You shouldn't build condominiums because you don't want to end up with another Harmon where you have M1 property predominantly and you have houses and apartments next to the cold storage, next to the construction company barracks, next to all the M1 facilities. So actually on the island, if you were to look and say, where could we put this plant that's already M1? This is it. It's predominantly M1. And there's a few commercial, there's no agriculture. One of the gentlemen who had property adjacent to the site we're looking at Said, I didn't know. I thought mine was agriculture. And I said, no, it's M1. In fact, that's why Cortec was able to get their batching plant in up there, because the property is M1. We showed you where we are, but even further back is all M1. So
I think,
that's...
Yeah, just adding from a little bit more on that. Really, if nobody wants it in their backyard, they call it NIMBY, no? So I guess if we're just building a new power plant, would the people in PD, Asen, and all of those areas say, come again and build a power plant right in my backyard if you're going to build a new one? They didn't have a choice back then. But the difference today is that the new power plant is actually clean and very efficient, and will meet the highest standard of US EPA, because they're our benchmark. It's not what I think or whatever. They're the standards that we have to meet that says is safe. And so that's the standards that we're saying the power plant meets and will actually exceed. And that furthermore, there's all this other, we have an opportunity to put together in this plan all these other major benefits, which include more reliability for the system in terms of in storms. We're going to save about another 1.5 million a year in transmission losses, additional by having it there versus where the Cabras plant is. So there's a lot of benefits to the ratepayers, because the other side of the equation is, okay, the environment, cost, cost of the energy, and the reliability of the system. So this is where the Okudo site put that all together.
Well, I certainly want to join the chair in thanking you for taking the time to lay this out for us, and also for the public. On slide 42, you laid that out, that we're going through this legislative process. We have maximum public input, and I've heard you on the radio several times, and you've had your other public hearing and public meetings. So, yep, we're going through this. It's going to be a decision by an elected body, and a really transparent process. So I want to encourage those who might be watching on YouTube or on TV to please if they have concerns about this, or if they're excited about the possibility of having very stable all the benefits and the savings that we could potentially realize by moving forward with this plan, if they please let us know and give their input, because that's really what's going to help us make the best decision going forward. But I do want to thank you all. I know a lot of folks in the room have taken time to present this to us, and we really appreciate that so much. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us today. And of course, our team really I've been working on this a long time, trying to address all the concerns that have come up from all the meetings. So thank you again. Thank you for joining us.
And could I just... Okay, there are two things that I'd like to add on that Mr. Benavente didn't address, but it's near and dear to my heart. And number one is, we also have a lot of 5- and 10-minute outages because of a problem with vegetation. Now GPA is trying to work on it. I don't know if you caught the news piece where they bought some new mowers and stuff that can cut. So we are trying to work on that. But we really have a problem with people who love to plant trees right by the power lines. And this is something I would ask you, the legislature, to think about, just to start thinking about it. We've had people in the past, if you ask Mayor Jesse Gogwe, he's had constituents in his village who have died because they're trying to pick mango or stuff from the tree next to the power lines, and they're using a metal pole. He's had people in My Road die because of this. Then we went in and chopped all the trees down. But we really need to see if there might be a need for public policy of saying to people, you can't plant trees within 20 feet of these lines. That way mango trees won't grow and people won't be tempted to climb and then get electrocuted and die. And the second thing, one point I'd like to make is, with this new power plant, we'll be able to get rid of that transmission line that cuts through Sinahanya. We'll take that down and take it out, which will be an improvement for the people who live in Sinanya.
The one goes to, yeah, eliminate.
I'd like to thank all of you for being here today. I'd like to thank all the staff at GPA and CCU. Just to recap, we will be waiting for the short form EIS and then also a copy of the MOU MOA with DOD for the 8 miles of underground transmission up in Dededo. If there are any other concerns or any questions, thank you again for coming today. It is now 3:48 p.m. This informational hearing is adjourned. Thank you.